Herzlichen Dank, liebe Frau Ministerin Baerbock.
Thank you, Minister Baerbock.
Very important messages with us into our sessions over the next 2 days. As we just heard from the Minister, the burdens of mitigation and adaptation do not fall fairly. To date, Africa is perhaps the continent most affected by the climate crisis and yet least responsible for its causes. Our next keynote speaker says we must not allow that paradox to stand in the way of action. Africa should leapfrog dirty energy and embrace clean power. And as we heard from Minister Baerbock, under his leadership, Kenya is doing just that, aiming to reach 100% clean energy by 2030. Please join me in welcoming the President of Kenya, Dr. William Ruto.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm delighted to join you this morning in this energy transition dialogue. I am grateful and I congratulate those who have been involved in bringing us together as the conference celebrates its 9th anniversary. Let me also register my appreciation to the government and the people of Germany for the warm welcome and hospitality extended to me and my delegation. The Berlin Energy Transition Dialogue provides a valuable platform to exchange ideas on how to address the two interlinked challenges we face, that is of climate and energy. The conference comes just a week after the IPCC released the synthesis report, which essentially puts the world on notice that we are on the brink of irrevocable damage unless we act swiftly and before it's too late. And the message was loud and clear. The world needs to reach net zero sooner than was anticipated in the Paris Agreement, that is by 2040 instead of 2050. How to achieve that goal and what are the drastic actions needed to cut emissions is the dialogue that governments and policymakers around the world must have. And that is why this energy transition meeting is timely. The dialogue on energy transition, on how to balance energy security, affordability, and lower greenhouse emissions is at the heart of sustainable development, and it is a transition that needs to happen even faster. The vital role of energy in our lives and economies must and was brought home last year in 2022, especially to Europe, more compellingly than ever before in recent history. Europe is accelerating its transition to renewable energy, now driven not only by an existential climate imperative, but also by energy security concerns. I think my sister has ably put that in context. Let me today share with you what this transition looks like in Kenya and for Africa, and give the vision of Africa's assets and our ability to leapfrog technologically, make the continent and Kenya in particular a critical partner if we are all together going to navigate this next era of energy transition. As I do that, I hope you won't mind me reminding us that 138 years ago, a very different conference was taking place here in Berlin. One that also involved collaboration and cooperation, but of a more exclusive and violent nature. At that Berlin conference, it was a German chancellor who convened 14 of the world's leading powers to divide Africa among themselves and carve up our land and our people as they saw fit. In the years since that conference, so much has changed. We have seen the rise and fall of empires, the independence of African states, and the dawn of new challenges that demand a collective and collaborative response from all of us as we are gathered here in one such. Today, in Africa, we face multiple intertwined crises. We are the continent least responsible but most vulnerable to climate change and its impacts. We are the continent with the least energy access, with over 600 million Africans still without access to energy. And of course, Africa still carries the scars of colonialism and economic and institutional dependencies that followed it. We not only have to provide secure energy access in clean and renewable way, we need to do this while managing economic dependencies, addressing odious debts, completely shifting our development models to finally prioritize the true flourishing and well-being of our people. But I have not come here to dwell on the past or to list seemingly unsurmountable challenges. Africa is not simply a victim in this story. Quite the contrary. It is precisely in light of these challenges that Africa's leadership on climate action is not just powerful, but it is also inspiring. In Africa, not too far from here, lies a continent of abundance, especially when it comes to renewable energy and green industrialization potential. The continent's renewable energy potential is 50 times greater than the anticipated global electricity demand for the year 2040. The untapped solar and wind potential is rated as super abundant in most African countries, meaning the potential is over 1,000 times the current demand. By contrast, all of Europe is classified as either replete or stretched, with renewable energy potential less than 10 times the current demand, indicating they will not be able to meet a massive growth in energy demand with domestically generated supply. Moreover, in Africa lies 30 to 40% of the world's minerals, including those on which the green energy transition depends, and plentiful relevant natural resources and assets. Add all that to Africa being home to the world's youngest and most rapidly expanding workforce. 60% of Africans, for the record, are under the age of 25. And you start seeing, from where I stand, why we need a conversation about Africa. Besides, we have the benefit of being able to leapfrog into a cost curve of technologies that didn't exist even a decade ago, one that supports green economic growth. As Franz Timmermans said a few weeks ago, and I quote, "The continent of Africa is probably going to be the most important partner for Europe in terms of developing the renewable energy sector," end of quote. And Kenya is leading the way. We will be the continent's green energy hub. Our national grid is small, at just 3 gigawatts, yet 92% of the power on it comes from zero carbon sources like geothermal, hydro, wind, and solar. We aspire to reach 100% renewable in 2030. and to take a quantum leap to 100 gigawatts grid size and 100% renewable by 2040. That is possible thanks to our untapped potential of nearly